Welcome to Washington in Focus. I'm your host, Brett Davis, the Center Square's Washington State editor. Joining me today is reporter Randy Brock. I just have to ask where you live, Randy. Do you see a lot of bears?
In central Washington and Grant County, there are a few black bears, but not many, no.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because you recently wrote a story about U.S. Rep. Dan Newhouse being among many opposing the Fed's plan to introduce bears into Washington State.
Right. The congressman is among many people who are reacting to a draft environmental impact statement that was released last month by the National Park Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And it's evaluating some options about restoring grizzly bears into what they call the North Cascades ecosystem in north central Washington. And they're soliciting public comments for that now through November 13th. They have a series of in-person meetings that started Monday night in Omak. They're continuing on this week. There was one last night in New Halem. There's another one tonight in Darrington. There's a final one planned Friday evening in Winthrop.
Why do they want to reintroduce grizzly bears?
Well, a lot of local people don't want them to reintroduce grizzly bears into north central Washington, but the reasons are a couple, and there's sort of a history to it. The bears were initially listed as threatened under the Federal Endangered Species Act back in the mid-1970s. In the early 1980s, they started discussing some nationwide recovery efforts. Fast forward into the 1990s, and that was when the last grizzly bear had been seen in north central Washington. They had previously been hunted to extinction over the prior century. And then in 2014, these two federal agencies initiated an EIS process to try to restore them. That was terminated in 2020 by the Trump administration. And then beginning last year under the Biden administration, this EIS process for reintroduction resurfaced. The feds, the proponents of this say that the bears this is kind of their natural habitat, has been for a long, long time, and that they would like to see an effort to restore it within the region. Depending on who you talk to, that's a good idea or not. The feds describe the bears as a keystone species which play, quote, an outsized role in the ecosystem by digging around, dispersing seeds, and providing cultural importance to Indian tribes and First Nations.
The people opposed to bears being introduced, what are they most upset about? Why don't they want the bears reintroduced?
Within this region, particularly in north central Washington, there's farming, there's ranching, there's a lot of outdoor activities, hunting, fishing, a variety of things. And people are concerned about encounters with these bears, which Congressman Newhouse describes as an apex predator. It has no natural enemies. They've been known to kill people. They could predate on livestock, disrupt crops. So people are worried about this bear-human interface within the area.
So how many bears are we talking about here that they're planning to introduce?
If it were to proceed, what they're talking about is trying to reintroduce 3 to 7 bears annually over a 5 to 10 year period to build an initial population of about 25 bears. And from there, over the next several decades, up to 100 years, they would like to see a population grow to about 200 bears within this ecosystem.
So where are they getting these bears from?
They would be, the biggest populations outside of Alaska are in western Montana, western Wyoming, and there's in British Columbia. So they would be transplanting bears from those areas into Washington.
I know you've written several stories on this before, and there'll probably be some more given there's more meetings and people seem to be opposed to this, but the Fed seem determined to have bears in Washington state again. So listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Randy Bruck, this is Brett Davis. Please subscribe and thanks for listening.